Hello, good evening. Welcome. This is Hot Edition. We're live on news up at Adesawe Kanda, also live on Kesmi 107.1 in Tamale and beyond. We're live on W93.5 in Wa and beyond. I am Alfred Ocansey.
My name is Beatrice.
This evening, Majority Leader Alexander Penyomakin files a suit at the Supreme Court to block Speaker of Parliament Alban Sumana Kingsford Bagbin from considering a motion to declare some 4 seats vacant. This is after the former Minority Leader Haruna Idrisu petitioned the Speaker to invoke Article 97 for Parliament to declare the seats of the 4 members of Parliament vacant for allegedly crossing the carpet. We have details for you on this development here on Hot Edition.
Also coming up tonight, some political parties participating in Inter-Party Advisory Committee meeting with Electoral Commission divided over the re-exhibition of the Provisional Voters Register online. We'll tell you why.
Stay with us here on your Election Command Center as we update you on everything that's happening with the various political parties. On the issue of Galamsey, the Minority Leader is saying Ghana is on the path of self-inflicted environmental genocide. We have an update on the Bujumburum. That's the blast that happened yesterday. The chief is urging calm amid investigations into the explosion that's led to the death of some 3 persons. We have that update on that, plus the latest in business and sport over the next 1 hour, 30 minutes. We're live on Kesmi 107.1 in Tamale and beyond, and also on W93.5 in Wa and beyond. And Safwa Boyen is here, the summary of the news.
Thank you, Alfred, and welcome to the news summary segment. We move straight into the details. The Electoral Commission, EC, has announced the certified voter register for the 2024 general elections will be ready and released in the first week of November. This information was shared by EC Chairperson Jane Mensah during an Inter-Party Advisory Committee IPAC meeting on Tuesday, October 15, 2024. Some members of the University Teachers Association of Ghana, UTAG, who identify as the silent majority, have issued a 3-day ultimatum to the national leadership demanding an immediate end to the ongoing strike. The dissatisfied members argue that there is no justification for the strike, particularly after organized labor suspended its own actions following government assurances to address illegal mining after referred to as Galamsey. The Ministry of Roads and Highways has halted construction on the Kaswa-Budumburam Road following a controlled rock blasting exercise that resulted in several injuries. The Chief of Budumburam is calling for calm as investigations are conducted to understand how the rock blasting led to the deaths of 3 people in the community. Also, Ghana's chances of qualifying for the 2025 Africa Cup of Nations AFCON took a hit after a defeat to Sudan on Tuesday, October 15. The Black Stars suffered a 2-0 loss to the Sudan during match day 4 of the qualifying series. Despite the team's efforts in the game, Otuado's men were unable to score as the game ended 2-0. Also, to a last story, beginning Thursday, October 17, approximately 6 million children under 5 will be vaccinated against the polio virus nationwide following the detection of polio virus type 2 in the environment in Koforidua. Health authorities announced that the vaccination campaign will be conducted in 2 rounds at an event to officially launch the initiative. The polio type 2 virus was first identified in the Koforidua area, the capital of the Eastern region, in September of this year. This brings us to the end of the news summary segment, and over Beatrice and Alfred.
Thank you very much, Safwa Boahene. Let's start from Parliament, and the Majority Leader, Alexander Apanyomakin, has filed a suit at the Supreme Court to block the Speaker of Parliament, Alban Bagbin, from considering a motion to declare some 4 seats vacant. This is after former Minority Leader and Member of Parliament for Tamale South, Haruna Idrisu, petitioned the Speaker to invoke Article 97 for Parliament to declare the seats of the 4 MPs vacant for allegedly crossing the carpet. Now, Sriel said 4 MPs have crossed carpet to contest the next parliamentary elections as independent candidate. One of them, the second Deputy Speaker of Parliament and MP for Fomena, Andrew Asiama Amuakon, is said to have crossed carpet as an independent MP for Fomena following his filing to contest the 2024 parliamentary election on the ticket of the New Patriotic Party. That's the governing party. Well, the others are Cynthia Morrison of Agona East and Kwadwo Asante of Suhum, all of whom are currently in Parliament on the ticket of the MPP, but have filed to contest as independent parliamentary candidate in the 2024 elections. Now, the fourth person is a National Democratic Congress member of Parliament who, according to Mr. Idrisu, has also crossed carpet to contest as an independent candidate. So let me bring you really what's in Article 97. And Article 97 states the grounds on which an MP may vacate the seat. One says a member of Parliament shall vacate his seat in Parliament, G, if he leaves the party of which he was a member at the time of his election to Parliament to join another party, or seeks to remain in Parliament as an independent member. Or H, if he was elected a member of Parliament as an independent candidate and joins a political party. But let's bring you the voice of Haruna Idrisu speaking earlier at a rally in Tamale. Listen.
Tuesday, the Parliament of Ghana will reconvene. And when it reconvenes, I am very certain that Parliament and Ghana will go through a major constitutional test. And that constitutional test is that the ADC minority must become the majority for Wednesday next week. And this must happen if there is constitutional and legal propriety in Ghana. Because any nuanced interpretation of Article 97 provides that if a member of Parliament on a political party ticket like MPP defects and fails to be independent, that MP ceases to be a member of Parliament. By virtue of the provision of Article 97, subclause G, an independent joins a political party, that independent loses constitutional recognition and does not belong to Parliament.
So you heard that Haruna Idrisu, member of Parliament for Tamale South and also former minority leader. But as you just heard, and I told you, the majority leader, Alexander Apenyo-Marking, is vehemently against this. Listen to what he also said.
I don't want to argue my case, but I think giving effect to a constitutional provision must be as far as possible practical. What was the intent of the framers and all? So that's about it. I just want to limit myself to these. So just to clarify the point. As to whether filing now is in good faith or not, I would say the times have changed. I am taking this step as a leader of the House, and I think that it's prudent to guide the process. In 2019 or 2020, I was a backbencher. I was not the leader of the party. So I couldn't have been clothed with that capacity to take certain major decisions, the nature of which we are describing today. So I'm acting in good faith, and I believe that this will help settle the matter. I go to Supreme Court as and when it's critical to do men and women who have been elected, and I'm sure we all have a common understanding that where there is a disagreement, we need to follow due process. So I don't expect any rancor. In fact, I was happy being served with a copy of the petition of Mr. Haruna Idrisu. And I also indicated to him that, yes, I'm also in court.
And you heard the majority leader, Alexander Apenyo-Marking, responding to that petition filed by Haruna Idrisu before the Speaker of Parliament. And you also heard him there confirming that indeed he's filed a suit at the Supreme Court challenging this. We're joined on the line now by Dr. Rashid Rahman. He's the Executive Director of the African Center for Parliamentary Affairs, ASEPA. Good evening to you, sir. Thank you for joining us.
Good evening.
Indeed, yesterday you argued that the matter may end up in court, and the majority leader is confirming that that's exactly what he's done. But how do you see things shaping up in the future?
It is, for me, it is a little bit worrying that, first of all, this constitutional provision is being given different interpretations. I mean, as if it is not clear enough. I've had a majority leader, he says that he was a majority leader 4 years ago, and now he is majority leader, and this is maybe the path that he has decided to take. But I believe he's not doing that in just his individual capacity. He's doing that, both from an individual capacity and then from the party's kind of from the point of view of, the political party that he leads in parliament. So what was clear 4 years ago should have been clear today. So that is my first worry. The second one is that I think we are beginning to see too much interference, judicial interference in the parliamentary process. And if we are not careful, we might get to a point where in the future, this same kind of approach will be used to grind Parliament to a halt or to even prevent Parliament from passing any law at all. Because once somebody feels, he has a different opinion, then they run to court. And then the process is stalled. We have seen that happen to some recent bills that were passed by Parliament. So my advice to parliamentarians is that I think we have to be very, very careful, and they have to be very circumspect, how much they subject their own kind of processes and their own institution.
So the understanding I'm getting from your second point is that you think the MPs are setting traps for themselves that may entangle them in the future.
Yeah, exactly. Because tomorrow, if assuming that the tables turn, and definitely minorities change, as they say in parliamentary language. In our democracy, I think we are at a point where there is no one party that will rule forever. So whatever it is, parties will be at different sides of the house at different times. And we want to make sure that wherever you are, I think the rules have to be seen in the same way, so that at least we can grow our democracy. When it's convenient, then we say the rules are clear. When it's not convenient, we say the rules are not clear. So we need a court to interpret, because many are arguing that this precedent was set by the MPP. So now I think they are being served their own medicine, and then it's medicine that they are refusing to take. I foresaw this, like you rightly said yesterday. I said this might end up in court, and given the time that is left, it's just a case of an issue, that is dead on arrival. Because by the time the processes will run their course, we are in December.
You don't, of course, listening to your argument, you don't seem to buy into the argument of the majority leader there, Alexander Apenyo-Marking, and you're cautioning them to be careful in terms of how often they go to court on their own issues. But you also heard him say that he would go to court when the matter becomes critical. How do you take that bit of the argument as well?
Well, I think his majority leader has the right, and as is every MP. But for me, what I'm just simply saying is that we have to be careful so that when the tables turn, or when, one day, for instance, the MPP is in the minority and these same tactics are being used, then, they would have set a precedent that is being followed. Because this issue of the 4 MPs, I think, like I said, it started when MPP had the majority in Parliament. And it was the same Article 97 that was invoked. And we are still dealing with the same constitution, aren't we?
Let me ask you perhaps my last question. Your first point was that listening to the majority leader, it sounded like Article 97 wasn't clear enough. And
Yes.
so he was interpreting it his own way, as it were. How do you understand that? Because he doesn't seem to understand it the way you think it should be understood.
No, well, I mean, let me be clear. I'm not a lawyer, and yesterday I made this very clear. So I'm just looking at parliamentary practice and procedure and precedents and so on. I have heard lawyers argue, and I'm sure some of them have argued on your own platform, to say that Speaker Okwe was wrong. I mean, in the ruling that he gave 4 years ago. So, I mean, and then I've heard other lawyers, i.e., Justice Ablai, say that, I mean, the constitutional provision is clear. So if you have lawyers, I mean, taking different positions and arguing different understanding of this article, then, I mean, it means that the article is not clear enough. So maybe this might be a candidate for whenever we get a chance to review our constitution, so that some of these things are made as clear as they can be. No ambiguity is left, so that at least in that case, it might be very difficult for anybody to read it in any different way, as the majority leader is reading it right now.
Dr. Rashid Rahman, thank you so much for speaking to us on Hot Edition. And that was Dr. Rashid Rahman. He's the Executive Director of the African Center for Parliamentary Affairs, ASIPA.
It's live here on Hot Edition on 3FM 92.7. We're live on Kesmi 107.1 in Tamale and beyond, and also on W 93.5 in and beyond. We'll return to the argument of Haruna Iddrisu and why he feels strongly that indeed this matter must be looked into. So stay with us. We'll get back into that. But it's some 19 minutes after 5. There's some development on the front of the University Teachers Association of Ghana, UTAG, reason being a group calling itself the Silent Majority of UTAG. They've given the National Executive Committee until Friday to call off the indefinite strike. Now, they argue that the initial overwhelming vote from members across all 15 campuses was in support of the organized labor strike. However, the National Executive Committee should have consulted with its members and sought their input before announcing the unilateral strike. On October 10, the University Teachers Association of Ghana declared an indefinite strike. The decision, according to the group, is in reaction to government's inability to adequately combat illegal mining. This is after the organized labor rescinded the earlier decision to go on strike despite several threats to government. UTAG's declaration to go on strike comes after nearly 80% of UTAG's members voted in support of the strike action in a recently held referendum on the issue. First, I want to take a listen to this group who describe themselves as the silent majority of UTAG. And we'll bring you that shortly, and that concern that they raise. However, the leadership of UTAG in the last few hours have also issued a counter statement on the press conference held by this group. Essentially, this is one that came through from the president of the University of Ghana, UTAG, Professor Ransford Jampo, indicating that this breakaway group or this silent majority of UTAG group, they are not a fully representative group of UTAG members. Let's get a bit further on this one. Now, Wilson Dabo is a member of UTAG and a lecturer at the University of Education, Winneba, and is joining us on the telephone right now to have a quick conversation on this. And Wilson, good evening. Thank you for joining us here on Hot Edition.
Yeah, good evening. How are you doing?
I'm well. So let's establish this. Are you a member of this silent majority of UTAG?
Yes, I'm a member. I was part of those that collated the group, and we have a functioning platform. Okay.
So are all the members of this group UTAG members, as in lecturers?
Yes. As it stands now, the sampling that we've done, all of them are members.
I see. Well, I ask this because a statement coming through from the University of Ghana UTAG president, Professor Ransford Jampo, indicates that per his checks, shows that out of the 57 people that's your group, 57 of you, 36 are not university teachers or lecturers. Many of the remaining who are lecturers have also issued public disclaimers to the effect that they never consented to being part of anything. Is this what's happening?
First of all, we don't owe any responsibility of any kind of response to Jampo. He's just a branch executive, just as any one of us, and therefore we don't owe it a responsibility to respond to him. If that statement were to come from national, fair enough, would have given an appropriate response to that. Jampo is not a national, president, is not national secretary, and therefore we don't have that responsibility to respond to him.
I see, but to the substance of the issue, are you 57 in all? The membership of this silent
we are
majority?
more than that.
I see, and all of you are university lecturers?
Yes.
And
we are more than that.
And all of the members have consented to being part of this group?
Yes. What you must understand is that in this nature of work, after you have done your background checks to get people to consent to whatever that intention you have and all that, in the end, the nature of politics in the country is like that people will be infiltrated and spoken to rescind their decision and all that. And that is what we are getting. And at least we can talk to about 3 people who wrote, formally to us that they have not consented to that list that we have put out. And it is a democratic society. We don't have any problems with that.
I see. So it's indeed on record that some of the people you identify as your members have written to you that they don't want to be part.
That is not the substantive matter as we put out there. Whether or not some are members or not, it is not the substantive issue. Can we speak to the substantive issue that we put across the national executive to look at as concerns coming from us as members of the association? That is what we can speak to. But whether or not people have written disclaimer or whatever that it is, that is an afterthought. And for me, if you allow me, we will want to talk about the issues that we have raised at the press conference this morning.
Well, I guess we're getting there, so you don't want to go ahead of me because I'm conducting the interview and asking questions as you are also answering them as such. So I don't think that it's out of place that I'm asking you these questions because it's also important for our listeners to understand exactly which group we are dealing with, correct? Is that all right?
As in what? Is that all right? What has happened?
I am establishing the fact that the basis of your group and the composition of it must be understood so that we move on to the next issue, that is the demands that you're making. And then that is not out of place at all.
That we, when you look at our press statement, we indicated a number of members, 57 of them. Out of the 57, 2 or 3, one from Tadem University, another from UEW, and then another person, I don't know where exactly institution is coming from.
Right.
And they claim that they were not consented to, and therefore they don't want to be part of the group. And that do not take away the substance of the whole issue as far as what we have put out there is concerned. And so,
you want the indefinite strike to be called off by Friday. That's your primary demand.
Exactly.
Why?
Why? Because when you look at the originality of the strike that was called, we were asked to go and cast our votes to, as in demand of organized labor request that there should be a ban on illegal mining in forestry areas, farm areas, and all that. That was the originality and the foundation of the strike. And so when it happened that organized labor, called off the strike and indicated that what government has put out as a roadmap, they want to reserve their strength of a strike and observe to see whether or not government will be able to implement those things. And so on the basis of that, we thought that when organized labor called off the strike, it neutralizes the original request of the vote that was cast for organized labor's request for the nationwide strike to come off. And so UTAC as a member of that organized labor owe it a responsibility to come back to us originally to tell us that, okay, we came to you, we requested that you vote, and so that we support this nationwide strike against illegal mining. Once we have gone and organized labor respected its decision not to go ahead with the strike, we want you to vote, to give us that mandate to declare an indefinite strike. That was missing. UTAC NEC didn't come back to us, and outrightly, it took an individual at that particular meeting that they had with government to call on a strike for UTAC members to abstain from duties and all of those things. We saw that as an irresponsible act, and we asked that they should do the proper thing and come back to the drawing board, because our constitution disallowed them to take that kind of decision without prior consultation with the membership. I
see. So your contention is that the earlier referendum was in tandem with the TU's, that's organized labor's intended strike.
Exactly our stand.
But I recall that I spoke to the national president of UTAC, who indicated, Professor Akurugu, who indicated to me that referendum already, UTAC, even before organized labor declared this intention to go on strike on the 10th of October, UTAC had already indicated their intentions as far back as on the 1st of October. And so you, even before organized labor came out, you had already stated your position that certain demands should be met, or else you're going to go on strike, correct?
That's correct. But there is a procedure as laid out in our constitution that even though it was an intended, a statement made, okay, it was conditioned on organized labor's intention to go on a nationwide strike based on demands that they put across to government. And so even though it was the intention of UTAC to go on strike and whatever that it is, the laid down procedure has it that they should come back to all the branches and seek our consent before they go ahead to declare any kind of a strike. And so therefore it doesn't stand valid for anybody to argue on the basis that UTAC wanted to go on strike in spite of organized labor's intention and all that. So it is invalidated, and therefore it doesn't hold as far as the arguments are concerned.
I see. Hold on a bit for me, because Dr. Ilyasu Mumuni, who's the National Secretary of UTAC, is joining me on the other line. Dr. Ilyasu Mumuni, good evening. Thank you for joining us here on Hot Edition.
Ocansey, good evening to you and your cherished listeners and viewers.
You've been listening to one of the members of the silent majority of UTAC. That's Wilson Double, is a lecturer at the University of Education, Winneba. He makes the point that this indefinite strike you have declared is illegal, essentially, because it's not in tandem with the constitutional provision. The first referendum that you undertook that got overwhelming support to go on strike was actually in connection with the organized labor's intended strike, which did not happen. So this one, you haven't come to them to consult them, so you don't have their backing, correct?
That is absolutely not true. Good evening to Mr. Wilson, Prof. Doctor. I didn't really get the designation properly. Yes, such a position is never true. And like you rightly pointed out to him, we were the first to have issued a press statement threatening a strike if our demands by the 30th of September was not met. It was explicit. We issued this particular statement, and September ended, and there wasn't any action by government. And procedurally, what we were required to do was to first notify the National Labour Commission, which we did. So we wrote to National Labour Commission indicating our intent to strike on the 10th, and thereafter notified all Electoral Commission chairs of our various campuses that by 8th we should have had all campuses ended their votes so that we can collate towards the 10th. It is interesting that even the motion that was set for the voting never in any way had any relation to organized labor. Neither did we, even in our first presser, indicated anything in joining or as a form of solidarity to organized labor. Now, it's interesting that our colleagues now will look at all these other renditions we've provided over the period, look at us in our faces, and then tell us that the motion that was put before all 15 campuses really was directed towards looking for support towards organized labor, which was never true. From the text, whether the direct or indirect or a symbolic view of the text that is captured, it has nothing. And so I don't know where one will stand to interpret such a statement, because we say whether or not as members we support the industrial strike that we had threatened government, and that has to do with nationwide ban. Do you agree as called by NEC? Literally. And members voted. Over 70% said yes. And per the Constitution, Clause 4, Clause 5, it's very clear. Immediately NEC says, immediately campuses vote for any industrial action. As NEC, we really have no power than to now first look at what date is appropriate, and then which form of strike should we go, which we went through. Now, even if our colleagues had issues, again, the Constitution is very clear that you run through either the various local campuses you exist, or you run through to national and see that ABCD is not appropriate. Can we get an address? Can we get an attention? Can we correct it? This is what the Constitution enjoins all of us. But as our colleagues have done, it is very populist, and to an extent that when we made several attempts at engaging them, we never had that kind of response and support, even though we were ready to listen to them and then try to see whether we can provide a solution to their issues. But because they know naturally that it was not about the key issues that over the period that as a body we've been pushing for, our colleagues were not cooperative. Granted, they are our members. If there is any kind of discord or inappropriate processes of handling these strike issues, the ideal thing should have been to start an internal engagement. Now, with the question you asked, we received the petition this morning.
Right.
It's the same petition that is rendered online that, you people, you issued the strike in support of organized labor. Once organized labor went off, you should have also gone, or you should come back to us for a renewed mandate. And so it's moot on arrival because we never started this whole process on the anchor of organized labor. And so if this morning you are giving us your petition and then in an hour or two to get to the media to tell the whole world, then indeed, as loyal, professional, ethically balanced members, they know inside of them that they are never out there to support the process, but to actually generate what we are discussing right now. And what are we discussing? We've left issues that are critical to the environment, even for governments to address, and rather now debating and arguing amongst ourselves. That is exactly what they have achieved. But today, we want to say this, that UTAC existed before these multiple political parties that we have. Tomorrow, today, in the future, it will continue to exist. But you and I, as members of this body, will go. How do we build a brand that is devoid of personal motives?
Right.
and many others. And it is never true
So
that Professor Jampo actually dictated anything. UTAC is bigger than Professor Jampo. And as National Secretary, I want to make it emphatically clear that the University Teachers Association of Ghana is so much bigger than every other individual. And that is why every other processes are enshrined in the Constitution, that even as National President and Secretary, we cannot get up to do whatever we so choose, but rather to follow through due processes. And so for our colleagues to say that an individual did what happened, it is never true and inappropriate. It's never.
Right. So essentially, you're not going to call off the strike by Friday. That ultimatum.
Absolutely. We are not today going to call off any strikes. We are not going to call off any strike tomorrow.
Well, Wilson,
what we are to do, basically, as in response to what we have put out, is to review, and that is already part of what we had planned. Because for every other industrial action, there will always have to be a review process. What is being done by the task force? What is happening to the revocation of the airline? What is happening to many other issues that government really had promised? How are we monitoring to see that these things are implemented?
Right.
This is what we had indicated earlier, that tomorrow 16th, we will be. And we had instituted this date knowing very well that government had slated today as a day for revocation of LI 2462.
So we'll
and that
see.
is why exactly what we'll be doing tomorrow. And based on the outcome of our deliberation, we will now come to the media and let the media know that this is how far government, in our view, really, have responded to the issues at hand. And this is the position we are taking. But not based on our colleagues, their choice. Deliberately knowing that what they are doing is never appropriate. It is not going to be based on the choices and the deadline they've offered. Because we know it is really falling flat on arrival.
But I want to thank you very much for your time on this. So we'll wait for tomorrow. You have a meeting tomorrow. We'll wait for the outcome of that meeting. Thank you.
Thank you.
So, Mr. Dabo, there you have it.
Yes.
I think that your answer is quite clear. Even before Friday, the leadership says they're not going to call off this strike. There's a meeting tomorrow.
Well, it is up to them. And we are not in, with this to fight anybody. We are so the same association. We are only trying to correct Mr. Norma, but his position is one of an arrogance. And therefore, we want to take exception to the pronouncement being made that they will not call off the strike today, they will call off the strike tomorrow, and that kind of thing. That is not leadership. He should listen to consent and listen to his conscience, and let what is normal, process be carried out so that we all can be serving the same purpose.
Well, we'll be monitoring tomorrow's meeting. Wilson Dabo, Thank you. He's a member of the silent majority of UTAC. That's a group of UTAG members, and a lecturer at the University of Education, Winneba, and also you heard Dr. Eliasu Momone, who's a National Secretary of the University Teachers Association of Ghana, UTAG, giving us indication that tomorrow there's going to be a meeting to review their strike action based on the developments from the government's perspective. Stay with us. Some breaking news coming through right now.
Breaking news on 3FM 92.7.
The Ghana Police Service has just issued a statement right now. Today, the 15th of October, they've arrested suspects Bishop Elisha Salifo Amuakon and Moher Amuakon, parents of the suspect driver involved in the fatal accident that claimed 2 lives at East Legon on Saturday, the 12th of October 2024. Investigations have so far established that on the 12th of October 2024, suspect driver Elrad Salifo Amuakon, age 16, driving a Jaguar SUV vehicle with registration number GN780120 with one other occupant named withheld for now, rammed into a 4x4 Acura vehicle, also with registration number GR2542-2023, driven by Joseph Aka, with 4 other occupants at Mensa Wood Street at Isligon. Both cars caught fire and burned beyond recognition. The investigation further indicates that 3 of the 5 victims in the Acura vehicle during the accident were rescued, and the other 2, identified as Justin Agbenu and Mame Jomo, both 12 years of age, lost their lives. 2 of the rescued victims who sustained minor injuries were treated and discharged, while the third is still on admission receiving medical treatment. The suspect driver with the other occupant in the Jaguar vehicle were also rescued and are currently on admission at the police hospital. And the parents of the 16-year-old suspect driver, Bishop Elisha Salifu Amuakon and Moha Amuakon, are currently in custody assisting the investigation. Meanwhile, a team from the Police Management Board, led by the Inspector General of Police, Dr. George Akufo Dampari, today, the 15th of October, visited the bereaved family to commiserate with them and also giving assurances that they will go more further with the investigations, and they visited the injured persons at the hospital as well. The police would like to assure the public of a thorough investigation into the accident to bring closure to the affected family as they continue to remember them in their prayers in these difficult times. This is a statement signed by Grace Ansah Akrofi, Assistant Commissioner of Police, that's a Director of Public Affairs right now. That's the information coming through from the Ghana Police Service. Fresh on the plate. If you go on our Facebook page right now, we have the picture of Elisha Salifu Amuakon, Bishop, and also his wife, who are the parents of this minor, the 16-year-old son of Bishop Elisha Salifu Amuakon, who was driving this Jaguar SUV. Elrad Salifu Amuakon, who is currently at the hospital receiving treatment. We understand he's undergone some surgery and also recovering as we speak, but unfortunately 2 12-year-olds died. Their names giving us Justin Agbenu and Mame Jomo. They both died as a result of this rather tragic accident over the weekend. So this is a statement that's coming through from the Ghana Police Service. The latest update is that the parents of the minor, the 16-year-old who was driving this vehicle that rammed into the other 4x4 vehicle, one Elrad Salifu Amuakon, that's Bishop Elisha Salifu Amuakon, and his wife are in police custody as we speak. That's the news just coming through from the Ghana Police Service.
Let's bring you some more here on Hot Edition. And some political parties participating in the Inter-Party Advisory Committee meeting with the Electoral Commission appeared divided regarding the re-exhibition of the Provisional Voters Register online. Now, while some political parties want the Electoral Commission to include in-person checking of names in register due to network challenges, others hold the view that all must endeavor to use the available platforms provided by the EC. Let's hear some of the parties, beginning with the NDC and Dr. Rashid Tanko. Computer is the Deputy Director of Elections and IT for the opposition NDC.
The timeline, and it's not within regulation 23 of CI 91. We are clear in our mind, and we're also clear in our mind about the statistics they gave. Because look, I can open it here. The thing is not statistic ballot statistics. It's a provisional statistics. 2024 provisional ballot statistics. It's there here. So what do I say? You see, they were shifting the goalposts. I mean, you give a statistics and you say provisional, 2024 provisional ballot statistics. So if you are talking about it, we're within your own document, and I can share it with you if you want. I can display it here for the people to say. So for them to say that we're not, they were not.
Multiple check on the EC's website at the time. How is the NDC going to approach this? Are you going to advertise to your people to go to the Commission's website and to use the short code, or you're going to still do it one by one?
Very well. I mean, we're trying to help them. I mean, we've been helping them all along. If you see all these processes that go, it's through the NDC ingenuity that has helped the Electoral Commission up to this level. And we thought that if you want to go that path, and this difficulty of having one by one throughout, why can't you do bulk checking of the data? I mean, that is why we're just trying to assist them in that aspect. And you saw my technical man, Yaira, spoke extensively about it. I mean, well-intentioned. We will find a way of getting our people to check their names, and then we will go and study the PVR they have given us. We'll go and take our time and study it, and then if there are any issues, we will come clean of it. And definitely, whatever we are doing, Ghanaians should rather thank the NDC for bringing this one to the fore, for making sure that we put the electoral committee to strict proof of whatever they are bringing out there. We are still very mindful about the statistics because the figure he showed is different from the statistics. Are they going to print those ballot papers and later on come and remove the 558 difference that we have seen in that differences? We cannot allow that, and he must come clean. And then the 20,000 difference that we saw in the transfer badge. You remember, he mentioned some transfer badge, and I put it to him that your transfer badge had a difference of almost 20,000 plus. We will need the data. We want to see what happened. Those who were involved in that one. We are not going to glide on this.
Thank you very much.
I'm grateful.
And you had the Deputy Director of IT and Elections for the NDC, Dr. Rashid Tanko Computer. Listen to the Director of Elections for the MPP, Evans Nimako, speak on this as well.
When we met here at Alisa on the 1st of October, it turned out that the NDC's issue didn't have any grounding. Today, 2 weeks after the first meeting, that the media covered it live, the NDC gave out 3 names of people who are having voter ID card, but bear different individuals. The EC checked and pointed out to all of us that NDC is holding a certain data which does not exist in the system. So don't be confused with what the NDC will submit to you. The New Patriotic Party, we are very diligent with our approach towards winning our elections, and nothing will detract us. We've been very peaceful, and we've heard consistently from the presidential candidate, His Excellency Dr. Mahamudu Bawumia, that he's prepared to discuss issues in a peaceful manner. He's prepared to discuss policy issues and not to go the route of NDC, that if it doesn't fit for them, then there must be chaos. Today, you've seen it, and you saw it 2 weeks ago, that the NDC argument is baseless and needless. They've moved away from the forensic audit of the register to a certain forensic audit of the IT system, and today they are silent.
And you heard there Evans Nimako, he's the Director of Elections for the governing New Patriotic Party. Let's cross over now to Parliament and hear what's happening in terms of proceedings. Earlier we saw Mahama Ayariga, MP for Boko Central, on the floor. Let's go and take some more from there. If you're watching us on Facebook, you're watching Mahama Ayariga, who is the Member of Parliament, NDC Member of Parliament for Boko Central, standing on the floor there in chambers in Parliament, giving his thoughts on what's happening on the floor right now. Well, he just sat down. So we'll be bringing you some more from there right here on Hot Edition on 3FM 92.7. The Speaker is speaking from his seat.
Yes. Thank you, Honorable Speaker. I'm so saddened by what is happening in this chamber that I'm tempted to bring to the attention of Honorable Speaker of the Lord's Prayer. In the Lord's Prayer, Jesus said, "Lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil." Oh, that is a very serious statement. Today, I'm hearing for the first time that if you want to have majority in Parliament, you won't go to the December polls, but they are going to use your energies and your talent so they become the majority. That's pathetic. That is very pathetic. If you want to win and be majority, December is staring at you in your face. Why do you want to have the Speaker with this kind of program? I don't understand it. I don't understand. You are running away from this December 7th, and you think that the Speaker should aid you so you become the majority. Oh, this is pathetic. It will happen today. It will happen tomorrow. Honorable Speaker, let me ask something very. Yes, it will happen today. It will, Mr. Speaker, you become a majority. That's what I'm saying. You can't use the speaker to win elections. You should stop what you are doing. Honorable Speaker, let me come to very important matters. I didn't know that the majority leader has taken out a suit in the Supreme Court. And in the suit, with the greatest of respect, the Right Honorable Speaker is joined as a party. And there is also an injunction against Right Honorable Speaker. Do you want him to be committed for contempt if you should go ahead with this matter? Is that what you want to do? Do you understand the full implications of somebody calling the Speaker before the Supreme Court and you saying there is an injunction and the Speaker should defy the injunction, so he's cited for contempt? What kind of indignities are you inviting the Speaker to be involved? What is the meaning of this? I don't get it. This is what we are attempting to do. So, Right Honorable Speaker, on the strength of the plaint before the Supreme Court and the injunction, whatever minority leader is trying to do via my vulnerable friend, the former minority leader, has been checkmated. Look, it has been checkmated by the application for injunction. I didn't tell you about the full implications of MOFAT, that when an application is pending before a court and you go contrary to the purpose and the intent of that application, you are in contempt. So I don't know why you are so excited about the fact that, oh, you want to push Right Honorable Speaker to proclaim a declaration so you become a majority. Now let me show you something which is very important. The import of making a statement. When you make a statement, and 93 you see, when you make a romancing statement like this one, it is not automatic that Right Honorable Speaker will do your bidding. This romancing thing you did here, you read the order properly. 93.6, where a member makes a statement, the Speaker, considering the comments on the statement, including we informing him that there's an injunction before the Supreme Court, we have told him, may direct, he may. The Speaker is not a conveyor belt for you. He may not. Direct a committee to investigate the matter and inquire into the matter when necessary. So, Mr. Speaker, this is a particular time that you shouldn't not even look at it. That I respect the trinity of governance. The trinity of governance is that we have the executive, we have the legislature, and we have the judiciary. We don't need a collusion cause for Right Honorable Speaker to say there's a plaint at the instance of majority leader and there's an interlocutory injunction to boot. Nevertheless, I will rubbish another arm of government for the sake of the pleasure of somebody who is running away from the polls and believes that this is the forum for him to become majority. So, Mr. Speaker, that's why I quoted the scripture that they want to lead you into temptation. Resist this temptation. I have combed the entire scheme, which is the Quran of parliamentary practice in the Commonwealth. I have never found a statement in a scheme which will make a speaker an extension of the Supreme Court. This is what we're attempting to do. You see, what you want the speaker to do is to interpret the Constitution. That is not his remit at all. And I've heard very jejune arguments that the errors of yesterday, if somebody made a mistake as a speaker, this Right Honorable Speaker should repeat it. You understand? The speaker is not a rubber stamp to come and repeat matters of yesterday, and he can't do his own thinking and distinguish the circumstances, the difference between the situations. This is what we're attempting to do. You quoted the president. Today, have we seen the members of an MPP crossing carpet. Have you seen it? Who has crossed carpet? And right now, Speaker, what is a pain for me? That today they want you to determine what these members of parliament want to do in the future. That is pathetic. Do you know what they want to do? What if they change their minds? So why are you dealing with the future when the now situation is that they've not crossed carpet? How can you pray in aid Article 97 when the individuals have not crossed carpet? There's no factual basis to support the conclusion that they've crossed carpet. Now you inviting this hollow chamber to consider the pleasures and the wishes of some members of parliament thinking about post-December 7 and what they want to do. Do you think we play lottery in this house? We don't play lottery like that. We don't do that. So right now, Mr. Speaker, let me bring to the attention of this house that there's a very dangerous precedent former minority leader attempted to do. And I'm very sad that these lawyers are clever and they want to bring the choboy arguments into this hollow chamber. These things you can say it when you're on the platform. But let me show you what the Constitution says. Very, very interesting. Honorable Speaker, the governance system of this country are properly demarcated in the Constitution. There is no way one arm of government will usurp the power of another arm of government. So let me read for your consumption Article 130. Subject to the jurisdiction of the High Court in the enforcement of the fundamental human rights and freedoms as provided in Article 33 of this Constitution, the Supreme Court shall have exclusive, not a co-terminal jurisdiction with this chamber, exclusive. Right, Honorable Speaker, it's not an extension of the Supreme Court. And please don't invite him into temptation and push him on the verge of contempt of the Supreme Court. He's a very decent man. He won't listen to you. They shall have exclusive jurisdiction in all matters relating to the enforcement or interpretation of this Constitution. Somebody say we should interpret Article 97, the forum for interpretation in terms of Article 130 of the Constitution. It's not here. It's in the Supreme Court. And this house is not an extension of the Supreme Court, I'm afraid. Yeah. 132, where an issue that relates to a matter of or question referred to in Clause 1 of this article arises in proceedings in court other than the Supreme Court, the court shall stay proceedings and refer the question of law involved to the Supreme Court for determination, and the court in which the question arose shall dispose of the case in accordance with the decision of the Supreme Court by parity of reason. Right, Honorable Speaker, the worst thing you can do to avoid this temptation to make a referral, and even you have been joined, so even there's no need for a referral. They've brought you in already. You see, at the instance of the majority leader, you are supposed to hire lawyers and file processes regarding the interpretation of Article 97. So why are they saying you should not, listen to them and then make a referral to a committee for the committee to look at it? Some of them are very happy, afraid of the elections that pronounce majority on their side.
So you just heard right there, Atacha. He's a member of parliament for Buakwa South, NPP member of parliament for Buakwa South, speaking on the issue we brought to you earlier, the majority leader going to court to get interpretation of Article 97 after former minority leader Haruna Idrisu petitioned the speaker to declare 4 seats vacant because the people have crossed carpet. But you heard the argument of Atacha. He's disagreeing with that and saying that that action by the former minority leader Haruna Idrisu has been checkmated. Those are his words. And also giving his own interpretation of some of the constitutional provisions that live from Parliament. You're still here on Hot Edition on 3FM 92.7. Bismarck Awusa is bringing you shortly the business news with all the details. Don't go away.
The most comprehensive election coverage.
Top-notch presenters and well-versed analysts.
Dedicated reporters and correspondents in every nook and cranny across the country.
All the action, every incident reported. All the big stories covered.
All facts cross-checked. Every figure verified.
Every vote monitored and accounted for.
The numbers tallied, analyzed, and interpreted.
We have invested time and energy in order to bring you a comprehensive elections coverage.
The whole world will be watching us on TV, online, and radio.
Election Command Center. Facts, analysis, results.
Hello, good evening and welcome to the business segment on Hot Edition with me, Bismarck Awusa. Coming up tonight, Civil Society Organizations Alliance calls for review of Mineral Income Investment Funds Act over lack of citizens' oversight. We'll bring you details. Thanks for your company. To start with, the Civil Society Organizations Alliance is urging government to review the Minerals Income Investment Fund, the Act, citing concerns over insufficient citizen oversight. Co-chair of the Ghana Extractive Industry Transparency Initiative, GETI, Dr. Steve Mantiao, argues that the Act does not adequately involve the public in the management of mining revenues, raising questions about transparency and accountability. Speaking at the second MIIF Stakeholder Forum organized in Accra, he made a case for a review of the Act to depict that of the Petroleum Revenue Management Act.
Arrangements, and therefore citizens do not get timely and regular information about MIF and how our mineral revenues are being used. And again, you find that in the Petroleum Revenue Management Act, there is a provision that deals with the volatility effect of mineral revenues on the national budget. You also find that there is an arrangement that deals with the intergenerational interest in the mineral resource, in the petroleum resource, in the form of the Heritage Fund. All these are absent in the MIF Act.
And that was co-chair of the Ghana Extractive Industry Transparency Initiative, GETI, Dr. Steve Mantiao. Meanwhile, the Minerals Income Investment Fund, MIIF, has introduced a mining incubation program aimed at promoting environmentally sustainable gold mining practices. According to Chief Executive Edward Corantin, the initiative is targeted at junior mining companies, providing them with support and guidance to enhance responsible mining operations. This program is expected to help foster innovation and environmental stewardship to complement efforts at ridding the country of illegal mining practices.
Shall provide support for licensed junior and small-scale mines in Ghana to support and make free, environmentally sustainable gold mining practice. On the back of this, we would like to push and ensure that these mines develop to become junior mines that can be listed on the GSE. On the back of a detailed resource estimate, it will cover the provision of working capital and capital for mining machinery, ensure corporate governance structures, institute a traceability and tracking mechanism for all small-scale mines, underpinned by ESG, and ensure that the gold that is produced gets a full market for the gold through the MIF Gold Trade Desk. MIF is developing a fiscal gold-linked exchange-traded fund as the MIF Gold ETF to be listed on the Ghana Stock Exchange. The MIF Gold ETF will be structured with gold as a principal underlying asset, for which the security will track the price of gold.
And that was Chief Executive of the Minerals Income Investment Fund, Edward Quarantin. The World Bank Chief Economist, Indemet Gill, is urging the Ghanaian government to prioritize private sector growth to enhance the economy. He believes Ghana possesses the necessary resources to transition from a middle-income to a high-income nation, provided there is an effective balance of private and public partnerships.
I think one of the things that Ghana would probably have to do is try to sort of see how to increase the growth rate. Now, the other issue, of course, is that you want to make sure that you increase it in a way that is not based on borrowing too much. So you shouldn't be borrowing a lot from outside, except for the most high return investment projects. And then the other thing is that one has to keep one's public debt to GDP ratio low. So because the problem with that, of course, is that when the cost of borrowing is low, it's easy to sustain a high debt to GDP ratio. But the cost of borrowing, as you found over the last 4 or 5 years, can go up too, just as it goes down. So I think a debt to GDP ratio, a public debt to GDP ratio of no more than 50% of GDP is what I think is a growth-friendly rate.
And that was World Bank's Chief Economist, Indemet Gill, ending the business segment with me, Bismarck Awusa. For more business stories, please log on to 3news.com. Thanks for your company.
Good evening and welcome to the sports segment here on the 3FM Hot Edition. My name is Billy Shen. We're going to start off, of course, on a sad note because the Black Stars lost by 2-0 to Sudan in the AFCON 2025 qualifiers, giving Sudan a boost. A good chance of qualifying to Morocco. Kwesi Appiah has now formally taken 4 points out of 7 from Sudan, from Ghana, in the qualification process. And he spoke right after the game. This is what he had to say.
Inshallah, every game is serious, but inshallah, the next game, we'll try to get at least a win to qualify automatically. The fans? Always when we come here, Libya is our Sudanese home. When we come here, we have a lot of Sudanese in Libya, and they all come to support us, which is very good. And that is why we have chosen here as our home ground. This is unfortunate because Ghana has a good team, and it's unfortunate that one of us, either Ghana or us, has to go out. And unfortunately for Ghana, Sudan has beaten them, so automatically Sudan will have to go.
Sudan will have to go. Unfortunate that Sudan has beaten Ghana, according to Kwesi Appiah, who is now the head coach of the Sudanese national team. Now, 3 Sports spoke to former Black Stars coach C.K. Akono, who believes that the players have been exhibiting more of an individual play style than team cohesion.
I think after these first 2 matches, that was impressive. We've always known that the team has not been a situation where they are playing like a team. It's more of individual brilliance. That if a lot of people have shown what they can do, but as a team collectively, we've not been able to see exactly what is expected of them, and it's simply difficult also because the time factor. They come here for a week or whatever, and then they go back. So it's a very difficult situation for any other coach. And so they've not shown the ability to work as a team. And that is what we lack. It's been there. But also, we must understand that they are in a period of challenges. They are in the challenging moments for them. And they need to get it quickly, else it will not be too good.
That was C.K. Akona, who's a former coach of the Black Stars. As it stands, in Group F, we have Angola, who have qualified to the AFCON with 12 points. Sudan have 7 points and need just 1 point from a possible 2 games to qualify for the AFCON. And Ghana have just 2 points and need to win both their final games and hope that Sudan do not win or draw any of their final 2 games so they can book a place in Morocco. And Niger, who are certainly out of the competition, have just 1 point so far. Now, a lot of fans watched the game and they have been furious with what has happened.
I don't know why Ghana, we should go and beg a player to come and play for our national team. Why should we do so? Why we have talent here? I mean, why? A defender who cannot clear a ball with the player on the touchline. Look at our second goal. Just look at it.
You are playing a football. You want to select players. Conference League, they scored this your goalkeeper 6 goals to nil. 6 goals to nothing. It's your first keeper in your national team. The Saka Kusiapia, you bring Otoado. What is the achievement of Otoado? So if Otoado plays Ghana here, draw and play another, not even to score, and you said it's a best coach. You see, you throw a ball to the wall, a ball to the wall, it bounces back to you. Akusiapa is going to African Cup.
When Kola we Ghana had to focus on John Way to me. Show me. Remember my son of way which you have fans my initiative to make us. Mom, you are fine cry.
The fans are definitely not pleased with what they saw. Here are some other results in their AFCON qualification. Zambia defeated Chad by 1 goal to 0. Gabon defeated Lesotho by 2 goals to 0. Senegal defeated Malawi by 1 goal to 0. Uganda defeated South Sudan by 2 goals to 1. DR Congo won against Tanzania by 2 goals to 0. Botswana defeated Cape Verde by 1 goal to 0. Congo, South Africa drew 1-1. Egypt defeated Mauritania by 1 goal to 0. And as I mentioned earlier, Angola now have 12 points because they defeated Niger by 1 goal to 0. And that's all we have for the sports segment here on the 3FM Hot Edition. My name is Bill Ishen. We have Alfred and the rest of the team on standby with more.
Thank you, Belishan. The small sports news at 3 Sports across all social media platforms. It's live here on Hot Edition on 3FM 92.7. Minister for Education, Yose Aduchum, says Ghana's TVET sector requires a paradigm shift from merely repairing foreign-made equipment to innovating and manufacturing its tools and equipment. He cited Germany's successful TVET module, which focuses on innovation and hands-on training as a benchmark for Ghana to follow. He noted that the current TVET system, which is often perceived as being for those who are not academically inclined, needs to be overhauled. He was speaking at the ongoing Africa Skills Summit here in Accra.
So that we don't continue to become consumers of the technology from the West. If you digitalize your economy, rightly so, we are doing that in Ghana, and you have a very weak STEM education, all the new digital tools, the software that will be developed is going to be developed somewhere for your consumption. So obviously you're going to have the net loss as anticipated post-industrial revolution. This era is also Africa's era. We have to leapfrog inequality. We have to really, how do we make sure that buildings, as you see here, this is a typical of public schools, will be a thing of the past. We are moving very fast with the support of our donors, our partners, our government, been very fast. With the support of our donors, our partners, our government, our using of the equipment that they've been working on in their schools. So things are shifting. But I also believe that it's not just about the equipment, not just about the building. Teacher training is an important piece of the puzzle.
As Education Minister, Dr. Yasid Duchum there. Meanwhile, Commissioner for Education, Science, Technology, Innovation, Professor Mohammed Bel Ahul says African countries must endeavor to build infrastructure for technical education. Bring you that shortly here on Hot Edition on 3FM 92.7. Also live on Kesmi 107.1 in Tamale and beyond. We're live on W 93.5 in Wa and beyond.
From education, we move to health because starting Thursday, October 17, some 6 million children under 5 will be vaccinated against the polio virus nationwide, following the redetection of the polio virus type 2 in the environment in Koforidua in the eastern region. Health authorities announced that the exercise will be done in 2 rounds at an event to officially launch the campaign. The polio type 2 virus was first detected in the environs of Koforidua of the eastern region in September this year. Now, while no human cases have been confirmed, health officials emphasize the urgency of the polio vaccination. Wilfred Owusu is the Eastern Regional Health Director. We'll bring you that later, but Director General of the Ghana Health Service, Dr. Patrick Kumar-Boaje, is also optimistic that the exercise will prevent any resurgence.
While progress has been made globally in eradicating wild polio, outbreaks of the type 2 circulating variant still remind us that the fight is far from over, even though, as WHO said, about 99% of such cases have been eradicated. The 2 rounds of polio campaign we are launching today are essential part of the country's broader strategy to close the community gaps that allow polio virus to persist. With enhanced environmental surveillance, consistent and continuous routine immunization, and targeted risk communication and education, we can stop polio at its source and prevent its resurgence.
And you heard the Director General of the Ghana Health Service, Dr. Patrick Kumar-Boaje, speaking earlier. And this is still Hot Edition on 3FM 92.7. Welcome to Campaign Trail. And on Campaign Show tonight, we start from the camp of the governing New Patriotic Party. And President Akrofi has urged the opposition NDC's presidential candidate, John Mahama, to debate Vice President Dr. Mahamudu Bawumia if he feels the NDC is the best option for Ghana. Speaking at the Jakpak Palace in Damango, President Akrofi said that the Ghanaian people deserve to hear from the 2 leading candidates debate about national issues and bring with it his solutions. Take a listen.
Months, 3 weeks' time, I'll be stepping down from the office of president. When I was campaigning here in 2016, I told you, because my opponent is one of your country people, your kinsman, that it is not always your kinsman who's your best brother. I told you. My vice president, who has worked with me for 16 years, is the best candidate to continue the presidency of Ghana. He shouldn't run away from the debate. The Ghanaian people deserve to see the two of them side by side, talking about national issues and bringing their solutions. Debate Bawumia. Why is he running away from the debate? He should debate Bawumia.
Why is he running away from the debate? He says, well, the president also spoke about what the government is doing to end the illegal mining menace.
Somebody who wants to be president, he can't change his mouth. One side of his mouth is saying one thing, the other side of his mouth is saying another thing. It is not good for him. In the 2020 elections, after the government had acted on the Galamsey, he went around all the mining districts of Ghana to tell them that when he comes, he's going to give amnesty to anybody who has been attacked on the Galamsey issue by my government. So it's not surprising that MPP lost in all those constituencies. That when he comes, he will now enforce the Galamsey laws. We want the NDC, four-time NDC presidential candidate to come clean, to tell us where does he stand. This is what I meant when I said that I was prepared to put my presidency on the line. I was prepared to take the political risk in dealing with them Galamsey.
And you had President Akrofi, and speaking of the issues of Galamsey, a member of the Council of State, Sam Okujeto, has also been given his views as to why we're here. He spoke with me on Agenda on TV3 last night.
We now hear that this matter is going completely out of hand now, to the extent that people say they are going to do a demonstration. We hear political parties attacking one another. And I'm saying that, why don't they rather come and sit down together and plan a course of action involving the chiefs, perhaps even threatening the chiefs, to say, because as you know, Otunfo sacked three of his chiefs, prominent chiefs, because they were involved in what? In Galamsey. And if the political parties and the government, opposition, and all those people are all forming political parties and say they are going to stand for election, if all of them can sit together and say enough is enough, let's stop this thing because it is detrimental to the progress of the country. Because so far as I am personally concerned,
You had lawyer Sam Okujeto. He's a senior lawyer and member of the Council of State. And going to the camp of the opposition NDC now, and flag bearer of the party, John Mahama, has criticized the government for the renaming of the University of Development Studies after a UP tradition leader, SD Dombo. Late President Jerry John Rawlings, who founded the university, declined it being named after him. But the government settled on SD Dombo. Commenting on the matter during a campus connect in Wa, John Mahama said that the next NDC administration will restore the university to its original name.
You know, if any name should have been given to this university, that name should have been the name of J.J. Rawlings. He won the World Food Prize. They gave him $50,000 prize money. And what did he do? He used it as a seed money to start the University of Development Studies. Normally, universities and institutions of higher learning are sometimes named after people. And sometimes their name connotes the academic career that they are pursuing there. Rawlings declined. He says, I want to live in the hearts of men. I don't want my name to be put on any monument. So, once the founder, because if you name an institute after anybody, you name it after the founder, if you have to. Once the founder declined, there was nobody had any business going to dredge up some ancient person who is the father of some political tradition and come and put his name on an institution for which he has absolutely no relationship. So, 7 January 2025, when we finish Independence Square, we will go through the process of restoring the name of this university.
And you heard that former President John Mahama. And that's it for Campaign Trail on Hot Edition on Shrew FM 92.7. And that's it for Hot Edition on Shrew FM 92.7. My name is Beatrice. Thank you very much for joining us today. I did this with Alfred Ocansey. Log on to shrenews.com for more news. Have a good evening and do enjoy the rest of our programs.